It seemed to Yashim that there were 6 of them at least, after the front door banged and the young people raged upstairs and surged into Polevsky's drawing room, making a noise like porters with iron-shod trolleys on the cobbles of Galata Hill. "Ciao, Polevsky! Fratello Conti Polevsky! Permesso?" Then Polevsky was surrounded, shaking hands, bowing at the young lady, and welcoming a tall, fair youth who carried 6 bottles of champagne. When the hubbub had abated, Yashim was surprised to count only 4 visitors in the room. "Miss Lund, may I present my esteemed friend Yashim. Yashim, Miss Lund." The men had not noticed that Polevsky already had a visitor. Miss Lund sank a graceful curtsy and smiled at Yashim with enormous blue eyes. She was a very pretty girl, with almost white blonde hair, held up in a bun, her shoulders covered with lace.
"It is a pleasure, Senor Yashim," she said,
in an accent Yashim could not quite place. Only the accent did not matter, for Yashim could place her immediately, instinctively, the way a Sipahi cavalryman judged horseflesh, or Polevsky knew his guns.
"We brought you some baklava, Count Polevsky."
A flat box swung from her finger by a loop of raffia.
"Giancarlo says it goes well with champagne. I think these are the best sort, but perhaps you will judge, Senor Yashim?"
Yashim smiled. He was an intimate of the harem, and he knew women. When he saw the inclination of the plump shoulder, the trace of laziness around the bright blue eyes, he had recognized something in Miss Lund's ease that reminded him of the Gojdi. A Gojdi? Yes, he would swear she was that. No door was closed to Yashim, as it was to half the population of the city, screened by tradition and law into discreet spaces. Salamlik was the man's world, at the gate. Harem, the sanctuary. In the imperial harem lived many women who, as slaves of the sultans, formed the sultan's private household. Some of them the sultan barely knew by sight, and some more he would know by name, but they all served him in their way. They washed his shirts, arranged his kaftans, played him music, and blushed at his approach. A few, a very privileged few, would have the honor of amusing him in bed. These girls were in his eye, as the saying went, the Gojdi, whose particular task was to bear the sultan a child, a son, and so ensure the continuation of the House of Osman, which had ruled the empire now for 6 centuries, making it the oldest royal line in Europe, and perhaps the world. If Miss Lund was the Gojdi, it did not take Yashim long to guess who in this room performed the duties of a sultan. Polevsky introduced his friends in turn. Giancarlo was the tall one, who would turn heads in an Istanbul street. Fair-haired and broad-shouldered, he looked well-fed and well-bred, with a high forehead and prominent cheekbones. His nose was big, and his teeth flashed very white when he laughed. He laughed often, and then his eyes went to Miss Lund, as though they shared a secret joke of their own. Raphael looked older, but probably wasn't. Maybe it was the spectacles, or the short dark hair that was already thinning a little. He shook Yashim's hand and looked to the ground with a smile. Fabrizio was a head shorter than Giancarlo, but beautifully formed on a small scale, with a head of glossy black curls and a neatly waxed moustache. He was impeccably dressed. He had flung off a cape when he entered the room, to reveal a shirt of dazzling whiteness and trousers creased like knives. Yashim inclined to them all and smiled. They were the very group he had predicted, young, foreign, and eager for an evening of champagne. Giancarlo flung himself into an armchair and let his long legs fly upward. "Allora, I am not in love with the ladies of Pira, Polevsky." Indeed, Polevsky took